channel. I know it has been a while. It has been over a month since the last time I've posted an actual YouTube video to my channel. But I promise you guys, it was never intentional to take a break. It just happened. You guys can see I am in a different area of my office. Typically, I record over there on my couch and just kind of like show like a clear background, white background, and show you guys like that picture in the back. But today, doing this video recording, I decided to change it up. I wanted to show you, let you guys see my wall of affirmations. Have a little flower display over here, and then as you guys can see, I have also like my little bookshelf behind me and my record player and everything. If you are new here, please stop, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and make sure that you check out the last couple of videos that I did post before I took a non-intentional break. And check it out. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you give it a like, thumbs up, so that I'll know that's something that you guys are interested in. As well as with this video. If you love this video, make sure you give it a like. Make sure you comment below. Let me know what you think of the video. Over the last few years, I actually have not been reading as much as I was when I was like in high school and middle school and all that. Like, I read a book and was finishing with like in days, right? But over the years, as I got to college and all of the other stuff, I stopped reading because I never really had time to really dig into a book unless it was for class or anything like that. But last year, I started back reading a little bit, but time will always just get away from me, and I wasn't able to always finish books. In today's video, we are going to talk about the books that I have already read this year, the books that I plan on reading this year, and the books that I am currently reading. I also want to dig into a few, like 3 books that I read last year that I do recommend that people put on their reading list for this year. These are books that I really, really love, books that I stand by and that I will read again because they're that good. So let's jump into it. Let's have a little fun, and hopefully you guys can relate to some of the books that I show, and hopefully you guys are like, yes, girl, I have to read those books. Let's get started. The first category that we're going to start off with is the books that I have read in 2021. I want you guys, if you have not, add these books to your reading list today. That's just how good they are. The first book that I think you guys should add to your reading list that I absolutely love, I highlighted the crap out of this book. And you guys will see that I like made notes of things that were important in the book and everything. And this is the top book that I read in 2021. That was the best book. And that book is We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rodgers. This book is so good, you guys. This was the hype book last year. So if you did not read it, like, I don't know what you was doing. I really don't. And I told you guys, like, I highlighted and I like really tab this book up. Like, that's just how good it is. And I recommend that when you do read this book, that you do highlight it, you write it up, and you take control of this book and you use it, because that's just how good it is. And I actually think I might reverse and read this book again this year, just because I feel like your mindset changes each and every year, and so you may think differently of how you make and do things. And so, like last year when I read this book, I won't say that I was in a very bad place, but I was really in a rough place in my life. And I really want to read this book when I'm more in a happy place in my life, because I feel like I'll take control of this book and really put it into action. Because now it's just like I don't have all that extra stress on me. And then me reading this book last year, I felt like I was like, oh, I really got to get to work. And I added more stress to my life. But this time I have a little bit more time on my hands. So that means that I could read this book and really gear into it and really have some fun. So if you don't have this book on your list, this is the book to add to your list. It goes through so many different key components, and it gives you such great commentary. She gives you examples and everything, and she makes sure that you do understand the importance of what it takes to be a millionaire. So yeah, make sure you add that to your list. I also have this book right here by Elaine. This book is so good. This is the book that she came out with, which was More Than Enough. I can't remember when she actually came out with this book, but I know that I grabbed it up last year at the beginning and I read it and it was so good. Oh my God. Like, I didn't actually know who she was until after I read this book. And then I started following her on social media and I love what she was about. And I was just like, I just love this book and I have to recommend it. And I love that she, like, throughout the book, she would give you like little quotes and things like that. I don't have this book like highlighted or anything because it was more so about who she is and where she come from and how she got where she at. So it wasn't really like something where it was like, girl, you got to take note from this and stuff like that. But it was just something, a good read, and it was inspirational and all that good stuff. And then I also have another book that's the same way, which is Cicely Tyson book, Just As I Am. I actually was like, girl, I'm going to read this book at the beginning of the year of last year. And during that time, she actually passed away. So I had got the book, was about to start reading it, and then she passed away. And I was just like, oh my God, like, I really got to read it now. Like, I really want to know more about her. This book is everything. Like, I learned so much about her. I was like, how did I not know this about her? Like, she was just who she was. Like, she walked this earth and lived her best life with grace. Okay? Grace. So if this book is not added to your list, I say add it to your list. Read it. I know it looks very thick. It's very thick. But it's still good. It is a lot of pages. But I promise you, you guys will love it. So just give it a try and see what it's about. It's good. All right. So, I want to go into the books that I have read this year. So I've actually read, wait for it, 5 books so far. Each book has demonstrated something different. So I'll go into detail of type of reader I am. So I'm more of a reader that loves like a mystery, but then I also love me some romance. So I may read a lot of books on my phone that may have a little explicit or rated R type things in the book. That's just who I am. Just gonna be honest. But I love romance. Like, romance, love is just so powerful and I love it. So 2 of the books I actually have right here in front of me. I actually lended the 3rd book to someone for them to read it. And then the other book was actually on my phone. Well, 2 of them was actually on my phone. And I got from iBooks. And so, yeah. All right, so let's jump start into the second category, which is the books that I have read this year. So I'm going to try to like go through each book and try to like break down what it actually entails, but I don't want to give too much detail because then you guys won't probably read it because I've already told you the book. So let's jump start into the first book, which was the book that I did on my iBooks. I actually joined Marka Evans' Story Gang on Instagram. And so this year she's doing like some of what I'm doing, like reading new books and just putting herself first and things like that. And so one of the books that she read this year was actually in January, and that's the book that I read. And this book was actually Get a Life, Chloe Brown. So I did the audio portion of it. I didn't actually physically read it. I did the audio portion because I was working in the office at the time and I kind of wanted to like have something playing in my ear. This book, not a favorite. It was a little rough to get through, even through the audiobook. So I can just imagine like what it felt like to actually read the book and what it may entail. But the audiobook was entirely hard to get through. I probably didn't even finish the last 2 chapters, if I'm being honest. It was good, but I felt like they were dragging the book a little too long for me. Like, literally a little too long for me. I was like, get to the point, do what you gotta do, and all of that good stuff. It do have a little rated R in it, but not too much. You can kind of tell it was gearing towards it throughout the entire book. But then when they got to it, it was like you wasn't excited anymore about that moment because it was just like, it's actually 2 more books like this. I think there's 3 sisters. And then they have 2 other books. But if her book was like this, I don't know how I would feel about the other 2 books. And these are the other 2 books right here. I mean, I might give it a try if I'm like really bored or something and want something to read. I may check it out, but I don't see myself adding this to my list for this year. But you are, I mean, if it's something that you may want to read or try out, I say go for it. But I won't be doing the other 2 books. But that's just me. But then let's jumpstart into the second book that I read on my iBooks, which was another audiobook, and it was Accidental Roommate. That was actually really, really good. It showed where, like, sometimes you follow your heart and you don't know where that may take you. That's pretty much what this book entails. It does have some rated R, and I told you guys I love romance, and sometimes that entails rated R scenes and things in the book. But it was really, really good. I absolutely enjoyed every bit of it. I actually did not post it on my stories like I did the other books. I may actually add that to the list. I started a highlight on my Instagram page of all of the books that I've read so far this year, and I may need to add that to the list so that people know that I actually read it. Let's jump start into the books that I physically read and could not put down. Like, these next 3 books, they were so good. Oh my gosh, you guys. I don't know how else to explain it, but they were so good. Oh my gosh, I could not put them down. I really could not put these books down. So the first book that I actually read this year was 7 Days in June, which was that first physical copy book that I actually read. And it was so good. Super good. Like, you guys, I couldn't put it down. I read this book in maybe like a week's time frame. But like, I would take it to work with me. At this time, I had my office job, and like on my lunch breaks, I would use that whole hour and dedicate it to reading this book, to where I couldn't even post on social media because I wanted to read this book and not do anything else. So yeah, I recommend that you read it. I give it a 9 out of 10. Because I felt like towards the end, they did drag it to where it was just like, okay, why did we have to talk about this part? Like, I felt like, okay, the author knew she had to talk about it, but she kind of dragged it a little as far as them being together. And I was just like, girl, no, you're doing too much, okay? But otherwise, it was really good. So I give it a 9 out of 10. And pretty much, let me just break it down for you guys. It was 2 people that met, they were young at the time. They met while they were in high school. They had a week with each other in June, and then one day, one of them disappeared, and the other one didn't know what happened to the other. And so it does go into detail about why that happened the first time. And then the second time, they're already authors established. So like, they reconnect and all of that good stuff. And by this time, she was married before and have a child and all of that good stuff. And now they're reconnected and they're spending days and time together. And yeah, it's just good. Like, just read it, put it in your reading list for this year. I promise you won't be able to put it down. All right, let's jump into the second physical book that I read this year. And that book is In With Us by Colleen Hoover. Y'all, this book is super good. Everybody knows about this book. I was like, how did I not know about this author? Seriously, this is how good this book is. I could not put it down. But this book, you guys, is so good. Oh my gosh. I didn't actually think, I was like, when I was reading it at first, I was like, okay, this is actually pretty good. But then it like got to some parts and I was like, oh girl, I gotta keep reading this. So I kept reading. And it got better and better and better and better. So this book has a little bit more rated R than the first book that I showed you guys, which is 7 Days in June. But this book has a little bit more rated R in it, but it also shows like so much that goes on into the world today. I love how she like put it into like a romance type style, but she also shows that domestic violence is not okay. And you have to understand what forms that it may come in, or when the person may be showing you those signs. And she kind of taps into it in this book, and I really, really love it. To the point where I really couldn't put it down, because I was like, oh, I gotta see how this is about to end. Like, you know, I say give it a read. It's really good. I could not put it down. I really read this book in like 3 to 4 days. That's how good it was. All right. So the last physical book that I've read so far this year, I don't have it physically here with me, but that book is The Friend Zone. I don't remember the author, but it'll show right here. And that book, oh, I give it a straight 10 out of 10. I finished that book in 2 days, tops. If I could have finished it in 1 day, I probably would have. Like, with no distractions. It was that good. Like, super, super good. I recommend it. I actually got it from the bookstore. And I paid, I want to say like $4.97 for it. But it was on like clearance, like, but I think initially the book is like $10. So like I looked it up on like iBooks, and I think it's like $10 if you get the physical copy. Well, like the copy where you read it. And I think the audiobook, of course, is like maybe a little bit more. But that book was super good. Oh my gosh, y'all. Like, I will read that book again. But maybe at a later time. But I will read it again. That's just how good it was. Like, I promise you guys, I'm not joking or anything. But if you have time, please add that to your list this year. I thought it was like someone, like the book was just going to be showing where the person was in the friend zone the whole time. But it was really not like that at all. So it's really good. I say check it out. You'll love it. Jump into, because I don't want to leave off that topic of this book, because it ties into another book that I'm adding to my list this year. So let's talk about the books that I plan on reading this year. And the book that is like a sequel to the book that I've read, which is The Friend Zone, is the Happy Ever After playlist. This book is super important as well. Like, I feel like you would have to read Friend Zone to understand the second book. And I actually have it on my list to read this year. I was going to find the physical copy and read it, but then I said I'll just add it to like get it from iBooks and read it. So after I finish reading the books that are currently on my list, and I'm going to jump into that book probably next and read it from my iPad or my phone. And yeah, give you guys an update on how I like it. But of course, it ties into like the first book. It talks about the best friend of the friend. And I think that if I love that book, The Friend Zone, I know for a fact I'm going to love the second book. So that is actually one of the books that is on my list I plan on reading this year. And then I have a good bit of a list of books that I plan on reading this year, you guys. So I am reading from my iPad, so I don't want you guys to be like, girl, where is you reading from? I read it from my iPad, y'all. So, another book that I plan on reading this year, and I actually have this book in my hand right now, is The Pursuit of Portia by Portia Williams. My sister has actually already read this book, and she is a big fan. Like, we both love Portia Williams, and at first I was like a little hesitant. I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go. But my sister has already started reading it. I don't know if she's actually finished it, but I know she started it, and she said that she absolutely loved this book. She learned so much more about Portia and the things that Portia, and why Portia chooses to do things in her life the way she do it, and some of us just don't understand. But she said it's really, really good. So this is actually on my list to read this year. So I'm gonna check it out, and once I do it, I'll let you guys know how I like it. But if you've read it, let me know in the comments below how you like it. Don't give me any details, okay? Don't ruin it for me. I just want you to give me like your rating, okay? All right, so the next book on my list to read this year, and I've had this book since 2019 Christmas time. I know my boyfriend always jokes with me about I lost the book, and I'm never gonna read this book. I'm like, I am going to read this book, okay? It takes time to get around to stuff. I read like the first chapter, and he was like, well, what you doing? Read a chapter every month or something? So he laughs and jokes about this all the time with me. But I'm finally putting it on my list this year to read. And I promise you guys, I'm going to get through this book, okay? I just need to take a break from reading about people lives and just tap into people that was fictional, you know. So that's what I did. I took a little break. I'm actually reading another book that once I end with that, I'm jumping back into like reading about people's lives and being nosy. Yes. So the book that I'm adding to this reading list for this year is The Last Black Unicorn by Tiffany Haddish. I know she got another book coming out too, but I ain't gonna say it and I'm gonna add it to the list yet. I gotta see what it's about. But they say it may be good. Well, I'm gonna see what everybody else say first. But this book right here, I'm adding to the list. I love her as an actor and as a comedian. So I'm sure this book is gonna have some very funny parts in it. And it's actually gonna have some really good parts as well. So this is actually on the list to read as well this year. I don't know what order I'm going to read these books in. It's no specific order. It's just whatever book I pick up in my hand at that moment and I start reading. But yes, I do plan on reading this book this year. All right. So I don't have the other books in my hand, but I do have them written down of what I'm going to read this year. So, like I say, I have it on everything on my iPad. So you guys, please bear with me as I read on my iPad and don't be like, girl, what is she doing? It's all for good reasons, okay? Next book that I do plan on adding, I added to my list to read this year is Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. Like, I really want to read this book. I know that it's going to be very heavy. I'm kind of scared to read it. If I'm being real, like, you guys, I am terrified to read this book because I know, like, it's a reflection of us as Black people. And then, like, being a male in American society, I know it's going to be so deep and I'm not ready. I'm, like, truly not ready. So I have to prepare myself mentally for this book. But I'm actually excited about it. It's taking me a minute to read Born Like a Crime. It's nothing personal, but it's just like I know it's going to be heavy, it's going to be deep, and I have to be prepared for it. But it is definitely on my list for this year. So I promise I'm going to get to it. It may be the last book that I read, but I'm definitely going to get to it. The next book that I plan on reading is Atomic Habits. So it's like more of like how we should all be millionaires. It's more of like a book like that from my understanding. It gives like really good notes and tips and things like that. So that's gonna be like another book that I'm gonna be writing up, marking up, and all that good stuff. So I'm excited about reading that book. I was supposed to read it ever since last year, but I've been finding other books to put at the front of it. But this year, I'm definitely going to get to it. I just don't know when I'm going to get to it, but I'm definitely going to get to it. I know it's going to be really good. The next book that I plan on reading is Did I Mention I Love You? It is 3 parts to this book. I seen this book when I was in the bookstore, I want to say like 3 or 4 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, because it was during my birthday time. I seen this book in the bookstore, and I was actually going to get it, but I was like, girl, like, slow down. You spend a little too much money in the bookstore, okay? You got a limit you got to go to. You gotta stay at. You got a limit. So I didn't physically do the entire thing, like buy the book or anything, but I did look it up on iBooks to see which way it would have been cheaper. I'm gonna go back to the bookstore this month, and I may end up just getting a physical copy of it, but I read the back of it, and it seemed like it was really good. It was actually like a step-brother type thing where they fall in love, but she's like, well, we're not really family. He's like, we're not really family, but they fall in love with each other, and it's like 3 parts, and it's like they don't see each other until the summer, because she spends time, I think it's her dad, she meets her dad for the first time, so, and he has other kids by someone else, so yeah. I'm going to be checking out that book, see how I like it and all that good stuff. Oh, it's another book that I forgot to write down, but I actually remember it. It was actually called The Silent Patient. I'm actually adding that to my list as well this year. I got that from Market Evans, the story game, like I did with Get a Life, Chloe Brown. And I'm like, I think I want to read it. I seen it the other day in Walmart, and I was gonna get it and start reading it after I finished the book that I'm reading now. But I was like, girl, no, like, wait, slow it down. Wait a minute. You got too many books you gotta read. So I'm definitely adding that to my list this year because it is good. Like, I read the synopsis of it and I was like, oh, I gotta get this. I got to get this. This seems so good. And I've even taken time. I was in the store by myself. So, you know, when you're shopping by yourself, you have a little bit more time to do things. So I kind of like opened up the book and just like skimmed through it a little bit and read certain parts. And I was like, oh, this is good. I have to read this. Okay. So I definitely added it to my list to read this year. The books that I may potentially read this year, I just didn't physically get. I know I want to read some more books by Colleen Hoover. She has some more really, really good books. She has different series that I really, really want to check out. And she's really a decent writer. Like, she's a very, very good writer. So I'll definitely be checking out more of her books this year. But that's about it so far. But of course, if I see any other books that I want to add to my list, I'll definitely be adding those to my list as well. And then I'll actually jump into the books that I'm currently reading. I'm only reading currently 3 books right now. I know that's a lot, right? I'm talking about only. That's a lot to be reading, but I'm almost done with one of them. Well, 2 of them actually. I just have to take time out to finish it. But the book that I'm currently reading that I cannot put down, and I was actually going to read it today before I recorded this video and just say it was completely done. But then I was just like, girl, no, because you're never finna get this video done, and you need to get it done before a certain time. And the book is actually called The Goal. It's an off-campus book. It's about college kids, and it's by Ellie Kennedy. And she has other books as well that I really want to read. It's The Deal, The Mistake, The Score, and The Legacy. I'll definitely be checking out those books as well. They were all at the bookstore. I paid $16.99 for this book. I was trying to find it on clearance, but you know, I couldn't find it. But as you can see, I'm almost done with it. And I have this little bit of right here to go. And it's just about like a college senior where she meets this guy, have a one-night stand. Then they like kind of, you know, continue the relationship or whatever, but she's not into like physically being in love or anything. And then, yeah, she got knocked up. So that's pretty much the book. I don't want to give too much information, but it's really good. You guys should definitely add it to your list if you're into books like this. But it's really good. This is one of the books that I'm currently reading. So when I finish this video, I'm going to finish reading the last part of this book. And then I'm also still reading the Gabrielle Union, Got Anything Stronger. This book is actually really good too. So if you did not read her first book, it was really good. I read that book maybe in like a month. It took me some time to get through it, of course, because I had other things going on. But this book right here is actually good too. Like I said, I only have like a little bit left. I just have to really get through it. So I'll probably finish it up sometime this month. But the first book was We're Gonna Need More Wine, and I love that book. I actually learned so much more about Gabrielle Union, and I actually fell in love with her more, like, as a person. And then this book right here really digs more into, like, her marriage and things like that. Okay. It's so good, so give it a read. And then, so I am currently reading Will. Which is by Will Smith. Everybody say the audiobook is actually really good. Like, I think the audiobook was like 9 or 10 hours to like listen to. And I probably should just got the audiobook, but I'm more of a physical copy sometimes person, and I just grabbed the physical copy of this book. But I read like the first few chapters. I'm on like, oh shoot, I don't lost my place. Oh no, I didn't. So I'm on chapter 3-ish. So I'm like at the end of chapter 3, going on to 4. And I'm actually excited about finishing this book. Everybody's saying that you'll understand him more once you read the book and understand who he was. And it does talk about his childhood. Like, and I've already read some of the stories, and I'm like, ooh, that's deep. So yeah, so far so good. So far it's so good. I can't wait to finish the rest of it. But as you can see, this book is actually going to take a lot more time because it's thick like Cicely Tyson book. And I'm like, girl, I've been on like, start reading something else and finished it in like a day or two. So this book, I'm actually going to take my time to read and just kind of like enjoy other books in between it. So I'll probably read like 3 or 4 chapters and then jump into another book until I finish this book because it's a long book. But yeah, so that's it, you guys. That is all of the books that I'm currently reading right now, and the books that I plan on reading, and the books that I've already read. And then, of course, I talked about the books that I have already read in 2021 that was like at the top of my list. And I showed you guys those 3 books. So hopefully you guys check it out. And so that completes the video. I hope you guys enjoy the books that are on my list. Like I said, if you have books that you've read and you like, girl, I think you will like it, you should add it to your list. Let me know in the comments below. I'll definitely give it a try, give it a read, and let you guys know my thoughts about it. If you love this video and you want more of this, give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, please follow me on all of my social media platforms. I am amazing over there, I promise. I have 3 different Instagrams. 2 of them is for business purposes, and another one is personal, which is still business. So make sure you follow me on all 3 Instagram pages. Make sure that you do follow me on TikTok, you follow me on Twitter, and as well as Facebook. And also on my Instagram page, on my personal, I did start a highlight reel that says 2020 reads. And I like give a review of it, each book, and tell you guys how I liked it, what was my rating on it, and to make sure you guys give it a read. So I am adding each book that I read this year, I'm adding it to the list so that you guys can always go back and find it. So please make sure if you follow me on social media, you check out the highlight reel. And yeah. Peace.